In this video, we're going to explore how you can add dynamic value in chart.js. And this is more a very specific question from a viewer. They wanted to know if they have a line chart, they want to add up a value, how will you do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to create a button, and that button has an input, and that input will eventually create the value. Well, the moment you insert the value, you press the button to confirm, then the value should display in here in the chart. So what we're going to do here, now we have a very basic Bootstrap template, and you can do any kind of template you want. And in here I'm going to use the chart, and I'm going to use here ChartJS version 3 because that's the latest one as of now. This is my HTML file, very straightforward. Let's save this here and refresh. You can see there we are. And what we're going to do here now is basically put in the JavaScript for the ChartJS library. For that, we are here on chartjs.org. We go here and you will see that this is the latest version, 3.2.1. And sadly enough, it's loading a lot, so just there we are. Alright, so what we're going to do here first is to insert or just grab the text here. We just grab all of this information here, but I want to have the line chart. And if I'm not mistaken, here you can see this is the bar chart. So let's click here on getting started. Let's see if we can find a standard one. We need this here, the canvas ID, very important. That's a starting point. And after the canvas ID, what do we need more? We need the script here. This is the JavaScript for the ChartJS library. We will copy that and I'll just put it here below. Alright. So once I have this, I need to have, of course, the information here. So you can see here the setup here. I don't like this setup, honestly. Maybe you prefer it. It can be quite confusing. So let me go here, click on installation, and then we will find something. If I'm not mistaken, do we have a correct example? Well, apparently not. So I'm going here to chart. I will just copy this script, all of this. And once we did this, we will just paste it underneath here. There we are. So once we have this, and let me make sure that this is all. Oh, I will just move up the bar here. Or just reduce this. Alright, so we can see the full screen here, then we're not missing any lines below here. So what we're going to do here is, this is a line, I'll just convert this to the line. So we copied all of this text. I like to give this a constant, there we are, and then let's give it a indentation. Alright, in ChartJS 3 version 3+ you don't have to do this. You can even remove this, and if you would save this, you will see that it should work as well. There you are, it works beautifully. Can you do it? Yes, of course, it doesn't matter so much. Alright, what we're going to do here first is going to remove this. All these, oh, now we're going to remove that. Well, no, we're going to remove these lines here, sorry. All of these lines are not necessary because we have a single line here. Alright, so once we refresh here, we have one line, one color, that's it. So what was really designed is we need to have, besides this, we need to have a button here below where we can insert the values of it. So basically there will be a inserted value, and then there will be a button to click. So I'm just going to create something very, very fast and very straightforward, so it will make sense, because my goal here is not to spend too much time on the design part, but more on the, let's make this here, but more on the functionality. Alright, so we have this here. What are we going to put in here? We're going to put in here an input. So I say here input type. This input type will be a number. And this number, well, you can say here class, say here, what is that? Control form or form control, if I'm not mistaken. Form control. And then we can see probably here. Probably just save this first. Let's see what happened. There you are. Alright, that looks absolutely fine. And then here below, I'll put in a button. So we say here button. And what are we going to do in this button? We give it a class, btn dark, btn small. All right, and in this button we'll say save value of a push value. So what we're going to do here, let's save this first and to have that. All right, margin bottom here. There we are. All right, and then probably what I will do here is BTN. Oh no, sorry, not BTN. That one, W100. The reason why is Bootstrap 5 version 5. I'm using version 5 here. Doesn't have this. Alright, so once we save this, we have everything here. So now, what are we going to do? Because this is really important. This is the core thing. So that's why I didn't want to spend too much time on design. What we want to do is the following. When we put in here value, let's say number 1, we want to click on this button here. And this is called push. And the reason why it's called push is because we're working with an array. In ChartJS, we work with arrays. You can see here, this is currently our data array. And what happened is, what we want to do is we want to push the value in. Every time we push a value, it starts to add up in here. So let's start with that, and probably we have to maybe add up some labels as well, because it will eventually create conflict if we don't have any values. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So let's say I have here 10, but I'm missing a label here. Does it respond? No. As you can see, it doesn't react. But if I put in here a label, say test, it works. But what happens if we have a label but we remove the value here? Save this, refresh, and you can see now it does respond. It makes a gap here, so we can solve this with span gap. Span gap. If I'm not mistaken, it's true. We set this on true, span gap, and no, it doesn't work. So let me double check here. So the reason what span gap does is basically start to make this a 0. So it will eventually, recognize as a 0 instead of a gap. So if I save this here, you will see it will go like that. Basically, it will be similar to this response. So I want to show it to you so you have an understanding of that, what to do if you have a empty data point. All right. So let me search here for span gap. See if, oh, maybe span gap is a P. Did I? Oh, sorry. That makes sense. Double test. I'm going to remove this one now here again. Let's save this. Refresh. Alright, doesn't work here as well. Span gap line. Span interface options. It's span gaps with an S. It's plural. Save this. No, I don't need that one. Do I have this? No. Default set on false. So how do we activate this? Span gap, line controller, chart options. Show line. If false, the line between parts are not shown. Alright, that makes sense. This is probably the one we might need. Alright. It doesn't work for now. Default set on false. Let me double check if true, line will draw between points. Alright, so let's make a empty item, and then we put in here, and then we say test number 2. Test 2. Save that. Span gap. Span gaps. Alright, there's a P, sorry. Alright, so this is basically how it would work. Right? So this would be a span gap, so if I would have here no value as well. Alright, so let me explain here why it doesn't sees it, because it cannot predict where the line needs to go apparently, because any hole or gaps in your data, so for example here we would have gaps, would be visible because they can predict a certain trend. But apparently if you're out of the trend, or if the ending has no value, it stops it immediately. As you can see, so this is import. This will be crucial as well if you have data, it's missing data points, and at least the chart will keep on making a prediction. As you can see, it predicts here. It assumes that most likely will go here, but maybe test would be, if this value could be 6 or let's say it could be 4 as well, you will see that it responds differently. However, these are projections. This is very, very useful to keep your chart nice. All right, so we got this one now. So you have the most important part. So now I want to continue on with the key essentials here. So we're going to do two things. First of all, we're going to put in here a push. We will create a push value here by creating first a JavaScript. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, we're going to give this an ID. The push button will be having an ID push, and here we will have the ID push value. So there we will have that. Now we're going here in JavaScript, and this what we're going to do is very, very important. So in here first, constant, and then we say here push value, and then here we say document.get element by ID, and then here we say push value. And in JavaScript you should have this, you shouldn't write it like this. That would be probably more appropriate way to do it. And this one would be just push. All right. So what we really did was here is we just pinpointed the ID, or basically we communicate with HTML and with JavaScript. JavaScript now realized that a button in HTML is becoming active now. All right. So if you want to see that, so we can say here console log, we get the push value. What we want to do here is push value dot value. That will be fine. So basically what will happen is it will log in the value whatever we have in here. So if I would indicate here a value, let's say default value of 10, we save this, and if I refresh here, now we have the default value of 10. That's fine. Open up developer tab, and you'll see here in the console log value number 10. All right, so it sees it here. So fair enough. So you understand this part, this should be solid knowledge for now. All right, what we're going to do here is the following. What we want to do here is first of all connect this with a function. So we create a function here, and this function would be push value chart, for example. All right, so and then in here we're going to start writing the code. So what do we really want to do? Well, the first thing what we want to do is we want to, the moment we click on push, we want to add a item into our data here. So what do we need to do is we need to get first this data. Let me show you what I'm talking about here, or let me get the data here. So we say here this chart, we need to figure out what's the value of this. So we say chart data, and then data sets, and then in data here. All right. So we say here, was this my chart? Yes. So from my chart we go to data, and then from data we go to data sets, and this is an index. So this is index because this is an array as well. So the index, this is index 0, right? Why 0? Because the first element in an array is 0. So we have here data sets with index number number 0, but we call the first element in the array. And then we have the data here. Data. All right. So once we have this, to make sure we have really everything, I want to give a console log to just display the values here in our console log. And how will we do this? Well, the moment we push on this button, we should have the trigger. So we say here push.add event listener, and then in here we say based on click. So what we will do is that the moment you click on the button, it becomes an event. We will trigger the event push value chart. That's it. All right. Make sure this is not in quotations because this is a variable right now, as you can see, and this is a string. So that's why here these are quotations because it's click, hover, mouse out, mouse on, whatever. There are multiple functions, but for click is the one we want. All right. So we got this. So basically, if you would click now, or sorry, if we would click the button of push, which is this button, we will see here our array values. So let's refresh this again. All right, so I'm just going to click on push. You can see here we get our data points right now here. You get the array. You can see here the length is 8, which is correct. However, you can see multiple missing values why we had some blank values in here. Span gap and show line is our savior in this case. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just add up here. So what I want to do here is now we're going to do the following. So this is push. So there's in JavaScript you have push, pop, shift, and unshift. In our case, we want to add the value at the very end. So we say here now we're going to give this. We say dot push, and then we're going to put in the value. What is our value? Well, you guessed it right. The value that we get here. So we say this dot value. Or well, what we can do here first is number 5. I'll just put in number 5 here to see if this works. And what we want to do then is after, once we're done with that, we're going to do another console log where we can compare the two values with each other. So basically, now we will add up a new number, which is number 5. So let's save this, refresh here, press push. And you can see now the following. So this is now more fun because we have 2 items here. Alright, so the length is 9. No, and I can see here for some reason it immediately adds up. I'm surprised it adds it up immediately, but that's alright. You will see here now we have push number 5. Normally we should see a difference here. Well, let me one more time double check if we really have everything. Yeah, okay. Apparently it immediately triggers it, so I don't know why. However, you can see here this is the 8th value, which is number 5, or sorry, the 8th element. All right, or the 9th element even. This is index number 8 because we have a length of 9 apparently. So that's it. So we get these values here, and this is showing up. So now you probably figured out, okay, we can connect these now all together. Let's connect them all together. So this should be now very clear. So what we want to do here, in reality, is we don't want to push number 5. We just want to push our value. And then we say here, dot value. So push dot value is basically the array, sorry, not the array, sorry, the ID of push value, which is the input, number 2. And then we want to extract the value out of it. So once we do this, this works. We open up here, and then we go to our console log. All right, we click on this. This is working. I have a feeling that it's not working. Let's double check here. If the console log. Let's do this one more time, and I click on that push value. All right, something is not working. Get element push constant. Well, or we can probably figure this one out. Well, you can just move this constant in here for now because it's part of this element or this function. And let's try this one more time and to see if it works. All right, so our console log does not work. Let's double check here. What am I missing? Constant push value. So what I will say here, push console log. Let's double check this. And I say here push value, and in the push value we'll get that value. All right, so this works. So I need to double check here one more time. Why are you not responding here? And then we can just copy all of this, put it in here. So delete this again and double check again. Oh, syntax missing. What kind of syntax are we missing after the argument? Console log push. Oh, all right. Double. There we are. We have that. Where is our console? There we are. Alright, it adds up the value. So it starts to push this value here. So this is correct. So we push this value. Now this works. So if this works, we should now be able to show the new array here as well. And this new array should show it. So, alright, let's see if this now really shows it. Oh, save this, refresh here again, and then press. You see now number 10. Alright, let's say we make now something like 555. And if I open up, you can see now the values are starting to be added in here. I'm surprised that for somehow the values are being seen as a string, as you can see here, but that's alright. So now we've got all this. Let's see here, console. Alright, this console can be removed. So what are we going to do now? Because this is really the function, so this took me slightly a while. But we are here now. Alright, so what we're going to do here is the following. This is what we call the update, my chart update. Because what we want to do is now update the chart based on our values that we have here. So what we will say here, my chart dot update. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to update the chart. But before we update it, we must check if this all works. Oh well, it already pushes immediately in here, so we don't have to do anything here. So refresh. Now we say here that, and if we push, right now you can see that's alright. It doesn't show anything or doesn't do anything. Why? Because we didn't add up this item here. So what we're going to do is we're going to just put in here some new values in here. I'll say test 3. Oh, well, what we can do is 4, 5, and 6. Alright, we save this, and now we just keep on adding values, and we should see now something happening. So if we add up this here, as you can see now, we start to add up values. We do number 14, there we are, and then we have number 1, there we are, and then we have blank. Blank is apparently being considered as a 0 in this case because it will push an array value in here. Alright, we've got it, but we're not done yet, and the reason why we're not done is we are not having the right item here. So what we want to do is we want to match up all of these. These labels should be added up every time the moment we click here on push. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add up another item, and this item, well, we can just type this in. We say my chart. What is the item? Well, it's the labels. So my chart data and then labels. My chart dot data dot labels. All right. Then in the labels here, we're going to push as well. And what we're going to do, we just push, and then here could be any value. So what I will do here is I will just say here, I'll just put a quotation in here, and then we just put in here day or test. Let's say test. That's all right. We can probably put in a text specifically matching up here where we push it, and we also push in the label down here. So let's save this now first, and then we do here. As you can see here now, oh, we need to remove this because we keep on doing the array here because we have more values in here. So I'm going to remove all of these to make sure that we have correct. Test number 3 can be removed as well. It's not necessary. Save this, refresh here. So then if we do here now 10, alright, it adds up in here, and then we have another 14. There we are. So what I want to do here maybe, and that's probably the last one, add up the specific label for the text. So what we do here, well, we have to go up here. We have another input. I'm going to add up a new input, and this input is a push label set of value, and this is not a number, but this is an input type text. There's no value in here. Well, this could be with maybe value of date or whatever. But I'll just leave it blank. We just save this, and then every time I type, I should see now a value matching with that. So what we're going to do here is we have this. We push label test. Yes. Well, we don't really push the label test. We're going to get the ID name, push label, and then we make a constant out of it. So we have this here, dot value, all right, and then now what we need to do is create a new constant. This constant will be push label, and then we say here document dot get element by ID, here push label, all right. We save this, refresh, and then now what we can do is we can just basically say 1, and then we say here day 3. There we are. All right, and then we suddenly have a here spike in sales. So then we have here that's day 4, and you can see here, and this is how you can add up here, or maybe you can say here holiday ABC. There we are. Of course, remember right now you're not saving it directly, because if you refresh, it's gone. So you have to eventually build like an Ajax in here, or a way how to store this in a database where it just grabs it. But this is basically how you can do, how you can add up a value, and if ever you need add up labels, and also covering if in case you have gaps in your data, use these tools here, show line and span gap. Extremely valuable, because without those it might look extremely weird. So let me just do this here and refresh. You will see here this would be a way if you would have gaps in your data, and this doesn't look appealing at all. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you enjoy this video, you probably will enjoy this one as well. And if you're interested in ChartJS, check out in the description box the link directing to my ChartJS course, where you can learn everything about ChartJS. And finally, of course, make sure you subscribe to my channel.